Hello, my name is Harvey Lindsay and I'm a writer. And as a special treat for you, I'm going to share a short story that I wrote recently. A sort of westerny themed little tale by the name of Trouble. Hope you enjoy. It was scary just how often history was willing to repeat itself. Meredith was 6, very young but very bright. She sang well, her high voice gentle and soothing. Her auburn hair fell in untamed ringlets to her shoulders. Her smile made the sun seem dim and summer seem cold. She loved to dance more than anything. She even attended a dancing class in the town hall every 14th day. Her mother was shot and killed by a stranger, one of many raiding Springwell. The cycle began. Meredith was 7.5, one of the youngest survivors of the second raid. The other children her age that weren't killed were stolen. Nobody attended her dancing class anymore. Now they taught self-defense. Once she was good at dancing. Now she was good at hiding. She practiced hiding more than anything else, especially when her father was drinking. He said it was the only way he could forget about her mother. He used to tell Meredith that she had her mother's hair and eyes. He said it with a sneer. Meredith was 10 and her eyes were blackened by bruises. The third raid had been months before, but the flu that had crept in after had sapped the remaining strength out of Springwell. Her father had survived the raid and the flu, but was taken by his own rebelling liver. He remained spiteful up until the very last breath. Meredith found that, as she stood beside his grave in the ever-expanding cemetery, no tears were falling from her blackened eyes. Meredith was 16 and had watched her hometown crumble after decades of torment. A veteran of the raids that plagued Springwell, she barely gave each stolen life a moment of grief. The town was hardening, storing itself within its shell like a tortoise. The raids were regular now, but they no longer took it with bowed heads. The people of Springwell, at least the few that remained, fought back. Like cornered animals, they snapped and clawed at the invaders. Sometimes they even won. Meredith was 18, and the town of Springwell was finally broken. A raid had come, far larger than any faced before. Those that battled against it were cut down by rifle fire and cutlass. The cemetery was long since full, the corpses left to rot in the desert sun. Vultures circled overhead, knowing it was only a matter of time before a meal would be presented to them. For the first time in years, Meredith cried, not tears of sadness, tears of anger. Now Meredith was 26 and found a job as a barmaid in the Springwell Tavern. She counted the days in between each raid on her fingers, each new one causing her to clench her fists and restart the count. The cycle was nearing full circle. One afternoon she heard the approaching engines of the men she had been raised to fear. She cleaned a tankard with a dirty cloth, but put aside her work for the time being. Casting her eyes round the dark tavern, she saw beaten old men, sagging shoulders and quaking bones. The saloon doors were pushed open, and in walked the raiders. It was scary just how often history was willing to repeat itself. First, empty your pockets. A gold tooth glinted in the shafts of added sunlight that reached through the smoke-fogged windows. And nobody try anything stupid, alright? At his command, the patrons of the Springwell Tavern began to put their belongings in front of them on the table, never raising their eyes. Eye contact was a challenge. The only people who won challenges were the ones with their fingers curled around triggers. 5 had entered the tavern. Goldtooth was almost a regular, although his true name was yet to be discovered. If the glinting metal in his mouth wasn't enough to identify him, his trademark behaviour of sadism and torture would soon enough mark him. The 4 others were just nameless gun barrels. They swung their shotguns in all directions, hurrying already shaking hands. Outside, the first shots fired, accompanied by screams. Meredith breathed slowly, suppressing the fear. It could only be summer for so long before winter returned. In truth, she had felt this coming. The pretty girl behind the bar, her breathing caught in her throat as Goldtooth spoke directly to her. How do you fancy leaving this shallow grave and spending your life as my bed warmer? The other 4 men laughed. Vomit rose in the back of Meredith's throat. She swallowed it and remained quiet. A minute's more warning and she could have hidden herself. She was getting slower. Are you refusing my generous offer? Goldtooth asked, pulling a revolver from a holster on his belt. Don't worry, I understand. I'm not a monster. I see that you're just loyal to your current employer. I'll take care of all that right now. There was a bang. Beside her, Gerard, the owner of the tavern, fell like dirt dropped on a funeral casket. His face still showed fear. It was not a look that anybody should die with. What do you say now, barmaid? A fleck of blood had landed on her cheek. Strangely, it helped her find her voice. I would rather that you just killed me now. She raised her eyes to look straight at his. She noticed that she was taller than him. The need to fight back rose in her once again, something that she hadn't felt for years. She saw the outrage in his eyes. The glinting of his metal tooth stopped as his smile receded and his lips covered it once again. He had an ugly face, unshaven and scarred. His nose was broken and half of his left ear was missing. Such injuries were common in the desert. He wore heavy clothes, faded by the strong sunlight. His boots thudded on the creaking floorboards of the tavern as he strode forward. Meredith didn't wait for him. She moved calmly from behind the bar. Everyone was quiet now, but not a soul was staring at their own feet. She felt their fear for her. These were the people that had watched out for her since she was a little girl, since before even the raids had begun. Her actions here might get them killed. Still, as much as they feared, they had started to hope as well. She could feel it in the air. If Goldtooth couldn't, it would be his undoing. What makes you think that you can talk to your betters like that, girl? He barked, standing so that his rancid breath assaulted her face. I see no man in here better than the one that was just pointlessly killed, she said. Goldtooth laughed. Women are such sentimental creatures, so caring and maternal, it really makes me sick. Still, I know how to knock it out of you. I've done it before, you know. I don't know for sure if you meant it when you asked me to kill you, but you will wish I had by the time I've had my way with you. You're not laying a hand on me. Her fingers twitched, readying. Not just me, Goldtooth sneered. My men as well. He lashed out with his hand, but Meredith grabbed it at the wrist and sidestepped. Once she had loved to dance. She had even attended lessons in the town hall with the other girls her age. When the raid started, the dance lessons were replaced by self-defence. She had never missed a single lesson. Strangely, she found the two biggest loves of her life quite similar. She spun, light on her feet, and pulled Goldtooth with her. He was heavier, so overbalancing him required a kick to his ankles. He let go of the revolver to break his fall with his free hand. The heel of her boot broke his fingers and she twisted his captive arm upwards and behind his back. She picked up the revolver and pulled him up, exulting in his gasps of pain. She pressed the barrel against his skull. Make one move and She was about to ransom off Goldtooth, but as she turned to the rest of the tavern she saw that everything had changed. There had been at least 3 times as many patrons as there had been raiders. They had seen her attack and used it as a distraction. The practice of fighting back had been stopped, but the methods remembered. The raiders fell one after the other, none of the 4 pulling their triggers in time to save themselves. You're climbing into your own casket. Goldtooth's tone had lost all of its confidence. I promise you trouble for this, more than you thought possible. You'll die, girl, and your wrinkled old men. Meredith laughed as the patrons turned to her. You promise me trouble. I promise you ruin. She pulled the trigger and felt his body go limp as her arm was pulled by the recoil of the pistol. She dropped his body and searched the pockets. She took every scrap of weaponry, ammunition, and anything she considered valuable. When she was done, she saw that the patrons had scavenged what they could from the other gunners. Do we go out and fight? One asked, the gunshots from outside punctuating his question. Meredith sighed. Not this time. From now on, we only fight battles that we can win. We sit this one out in here, then we assemble whoever is left and prepare them for the next time. Agreed? Agreed, they said as one, with heavy hearts. Meredith wanted nothing more than to rush out and help the good people of Wellspring, but knew it would be throwing her life away. Life had taught her that nobody could be saved. Now she was ready to try teaching a few lessons of her own. The cycle was broken. It was scary just how often history was willing to repeat itself. Meredith was 56, cleaning the dust off the tavern with a clean white rag. The tavern was full past capacity. The seats had ran out long before the patrons had stopped coming in. Springwell celebrated with music and laughter. Meredith's grandchildren danced on a specially built stage, while her first son played the fiddle for them. 3 men strode in through the saloon doors, silencing the music. The leader drew out a gun and shouted to the assembled town, "All right, folks, this town belongs to me now. Anyone who says otherwise is going to meet the trouble we brought with us." Everyone looked to Meredith, who drew out a revolver that had belonged to the last man that had truly threatened her, and clicked off the safety. "Sorry, dear, but trouble was here a long time before you were." So, that was Trouble, a short story written by me, Harvey Lindsay. I thank you for watching and listening and hope that you enjoyed it. If you would like to read it, you can go to my a personal blog, thewaterfall.tumblr.com, and I encourage you to check out the rest of the Readers Retreat network, be it the WordPress blog or the Facebook fan page. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.